Live from the slightly twisted deck bar, it's the Poojie Podcast with Justin Lemie.
The Poojie Podcast is proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club, located in Jacksonville, Florida, off County Road 210, just west of St. John's Parkway.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to episode 59 of the Poojie Podcast. 59, next week, episode 60. Amazing. We've already done almost 60 episodes of this small startup podcast that started all out of desperation to deliver sports content to the internet. And this is where we are today. Week 13, ironically enough, we still have a week 12 NFL matchup coming up tomorrow. So when I release this tomorrow, there will still be one more game, the Ravens versus the Steelers. Thanks, Matt. But then we kick off week 13 on Thursday. So pretty much, or actually not Thursday, the Thursday game got moved. So we'll kick off week 13 on Sunday. No Thursday night football this week. It's okay. It'll get made up for with Tuesday night football on next Tuesday. So we do have an exciting show today, of course. Obviously, we're going to run through week 12, what we saw in week 12, obviously week 13 preview, as well as some fantasy booms, busts, and sleepers, and any hot takes, predictions, storylines that might come up during the show. If you're listening on the podcast on Spotify, Apple, be sure to go follow on Instagram, YouTube. Now we're on Facebook, Twitter. We're all over the place now, so be sure to go follow us on your favorite social media. If you are listening on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to help out the podcast any way you can. Really appreciate that, but do want to get into week 12 as we are here. It's chilly out here. It's a little bit cold, so let's fire things up. Jacob, you want to come in real quick and help explain to me what happened on Sunday between the Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns, a Browns team who are 8-3 and looking to be actual contenders in the AFC.
Yeah, this was actually a pretty competitive game, and I don't think many Jags fans expected it, even with Mike Glennon coming in, or especially with him. There was a stat on the TV talking about how bad the Cleveland defense was, but in recent weeks they've actually picked it up and we're only allowing like 13 points a game. So I think I was kind of shocked that he was actually making us look competent on offense after the last, 5 weeks. Laviska came back. He looked pretty good, but Colin Johnson showed up with Conley out, and Colin Johnson had a big play for a touchdown. That looked awesome. J-Rob, of course, he's a beast still. And then the defense, it looks like it's improving. I'm kind of glad to see that. I hope we don't improve too much because I do really covet that number 2 pick, maybe the number 1. But, yeah, it was a competitive game. This is what you want to see at this time of year where we're not hurting our draft stock, but we're also not just rolling over to teams.
Yeah, and who would have thought it would have been enjoyable right before December to watch your team lose because it was only by 2 points. 27-25. The Browns lose. Yeah, Jacob, go for it. Or the Browns win, excuse me. I'm sorry.
I didn't want to forget this. There was a very interesting stat I saw because, of course, our star running back, James Robinson, an undrafted rookie, he currently has, let me just double-check the number. He has 1,170 scrimmage yards through 11 games. The current record for an undrafted player is 1,328 yards by Dominique Rhodes. He's on pace to smash that record for an undrafted rookie in terms of scrimmage yards, and we still have 5 games. So I hope that is a continuous thing, that he's a star running back for years to come, because this guy looks like a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, and Dominic Rhodes, a player Jaguar fans are all too familiar with from his days with the Colts as the third down back behind Peyton Manning there in that Colts offense with Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark, Reggie Wayne, and so on. Jaguar fans very familiar with Dominic Rhodes. Did not know he was an undrafted free agent, so thank you for mentioning that. And I'm glad you brought up James Robinson being an undrafted free agent, because also this week, what a lot of Jaguar fans have been waiting for, not too big of a surprise, Dave Caldwell has officially been relieved of his duties in Jacksonville after 7 years with the team. And by God, did he try his best to build the team up to what it could be, and just obstacle after obstacle after obstacle kept this team from becoming what he wanted it to be. Tom Coughlin stepped in and ruined the chemistry. Let's not forget, he built the team through free agency and the draft that got the Jaguars to the 2017 AFC Championship. Were there questionable decisions with Allen Robinson, Blake Bortles' contract extension, Yannick Ngakoue, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, the list goes on, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, this was a guy that came from the Atlanta Falcons under Thomas Dimitroff, who's no longer there. He moved the Falcons up in the draft to take Julio Jones, moved up 22 spots to take Julio Jones. We saw what type of GM he would be, and he tried to be that for the Jaguars. But I'm off my soapbox for Dave Caldwell. He left us with, like Jacob said, a diamond in the rough. James Robinson, that's at least one piece hopefully we see stick around in Jacksonville with the new regime coming in, whoever it might be. I don't know if it's going to be Doug Marrone still here, Todd Wash. Hopefully he's gone. Whoever it might be, I know Louis Riddick has been a potential candidate, but or at least been talked about. I don't want to say potential candidate, but it's going to be exciting. This is the part that Jaguar fans like, is when these offseason moves actually happen. Luke, I do want to go over to you real quick. Jacob kind of mentioned the draft picks real quick. What do we got over there on the whiteboard today? What does your whiteboard say?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce my my whiteboard with a little song. Trevor and the Jets.
Trevor and the Jets. So you pretty much think it's inevitable at this point that Trevor Lawrence is with the Jets?
Unless he decides to go back to Clemson, I think he's going to be on the Jets. Talking about diamonds in the rough, the Jets have the first pick of the shiniest diamond on top of the draft board. And if Trevor Lawrence comes out, I'm pretty sure they're going to take him and just move Sam Darnold out or just keep him as a backup.
Well, we're going to get to Week 13 storylines, but since we're talking about the Jets, they are playing this week quite possibly the worst performing team out of any week in the NFL we've seen this year, besides the Lions, who got shut out. The Las Vegas Raiders, who just lost 43-6 to the Atlanta Falcons in what was – ugly is not even the word for it. You can't even say ugly game. I mean, the Raiders looked so incompetent. It looked like half their team was left on the bus or locked outside the stadium for COVID protocol. And I'm starting to think the Jets might have a chance in this one if the Raiders come out and play the way they did against the Falcons. Do you think that holds any water, Luke?
It kind of depends on the Raiders because, I mean, they've come out and beat the Chiefs. It's like you don't know what team you get with the Raiders. You get the one that loses to the Falcons or you get the one that beats the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm pretty sure that's their only loss on the season. So it's not like the Raiders are an awful team. It's just they're very inconsistent.
Yeah, that performance was god-awful. DJ Leggett, I want to bring you in here real quick. You had some words for Jags Browns. Give it to me straight, uncut, raw footage. Give it to us.
The Browns fans, I got to say, man, my boss is a Browns fan. Browns fans, they're not happy. My boss, Browns fan, he's not happy. Man, going into playoffs, this isn't what you want to see from your team, man. You're losing to the Jags. Like, come on. So James Robinson, he's putting up a lot of points against you. Baker Mayfield, he's looking like, first-round pick that you wish you had never picked. Like, so missing wide open shots, man. They got to be feeling it. I mean, Jags fans, we felt this, but Browns fans, this is something.
It's interesting, and Sam, you cut out there a little bit, but I thought it was funny how we talked about Baker Mayfield right after Derek Carr, maybe two of the most inconsistent quarterbacks in the league, back-to-back and what we're talking about here. But I agree, like, you can't beat the Jags by 2 because of a failed 2-point conversion. That just doesn't look too good, too promising. But they'll have a chance to rebound this week in a matchup that we'll talk about here in a little bit via Jacob. So, Jacob, get ready for that one. But I do want to get to this real quick. Shout out to Holden for winning the Thanksgiving Day contest, the Turkey Day football contest. Got 4 out of the 6 picks correct. Got the Washington game all correct. Picked Washington to win. Had the over 48.5 points. Had 3 turnovers exactly. And he also picked Houston to win in the first game as well. So thank you to everyone that participated in that. 9 entries there. Holden went home with a Poojie Podcast t-shirt and koozie. So we are going to continue that this week because it was so much fun for me to watch and for everyone to participate. So we have the Sunday 3-piece combo meal coming at you this Sunday with lunch, dinner, and dessert. We are going to start with dessert. We have Denver at Kansas City. For dinner, we have Philadelphia at Green Bay. And then lunch, I'm a little bit up in the air at right now. I think we're going to do Cleveland at Tennessee. potentially New Orleans at Atlanta. So be on the lookout on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for those contests. Same concept. You got to pick the winner straight up, pick the over-under, and pick the correct amount of turnovers between the 3 games each. And that's going to be the tiebreakers, who's closest to the total turnover. So contest rules will be on the Instagram page, Facebook, and Twitter. The Sunday 3-piece combo meal coming at you again this week. And since we're at it, let's get into some intrigue matchups real quick. Matt, you've been sitting there patiently. I know you're watching the UNC basketball game, but jump on in. Give me your intrigue matchup since you're starting off Sunday for us.
Yeah, as I was just watching a little bit of my Tar Heels. Got a huge win over Stanford, going on to the Maui Championship against Texas. But other than that, my intrigue matchup is going to be the 9-2 Saints versus the 4-7 Falcons. This is a big game for both teams for playoff implications. Saints still sit at the top of the NFC right now, while the Falcons are currently tied for 11th with both Detroit and Washington. And Detroit currently has a tiebreaker for both teams, and Washington has a tiebreaker over Atlanta. But they're 2 games behind right now for that 7th spot. And both teams are coming off wins. Saints came off a road win against the Broncos, who didn't have a quarterback, but you got to give credit to Kendall Hinton right there. And the Falcons coming off, like we said, a crazy win over the Raiders, 43-6, without Julio Jones or Todd Gurley. And the fact that these two teams just played not even 2 weeks ago, and the Saints won 24-9 with Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback. He's projected to start again this week. So I guess really, can the Falcons make adjustments? And will Julio and Todd Gurley be impactful at all if they come back to play this week? And for the Saints, they just got to keep getting that momentum as like I said, they're still the number 1 team in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints do not look like they've missed a beat. I mean, give credit where credit's due to Sean Payton coaching that team up, specialty with Taysom Hill. I mean, I don't think any coach has had to make as drastic of a coaching change as Sean Payton, going from Drew Brees to Taysom Hill, one of the sharp sniper. Drew Brees, he's got a fantastic arm, to Taysom Hill, who had like 13 total passing yards on Sunday against the Broncos. Saints at Broncos last week, like the fewest passing yards in a game ever, fewest completions in a game ever, just totally bashing all passing stats or records on the negative side. Fewest completions, fewest attempts, all that good stuff. Kendall Hinton, shout out to him. He did have more interceptions than completions. That was unfortunate. But for a guy that got flown in the day before off the practice squad to not have any practice, and he's a wide receiver, to start at quarterback, very impressive for him. Luke, let's bring you in here for your intrigue matchup. Matt briefly touched on the Washington football team. What do you got, Luke?
Yeah, nice segue into my matchup, which is going to be the Washington football team versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're not sure what the outcome of tomorrow's game with the Ravens looks like. It could be the Steelers are still undefeated, but Washington football team's put in 2 games back-to-back of wins. It was the Bengals, and also Joe Burrow got hurt in that game, and it was the Cowboys where they have their own injuries. But Washington football team with Alex Smith has been looking good. I don't expect Antonio Gibson to have another day like he did against the Cowboys. It will probably be more Scary Terry and Logan Thomas. But I like what Alex Smith is doing over there, and I want to see them and how they can compete against an actually top-tier talent against the Steelers.
Yeah, I was talking to my uncle on Thanksgiving, and he kind of reminded me, refreshed my memory, that before his injury, Alex Smith had the Washington football team as one of the best teams in the league before that injury. And it wasn't until that injury that stuff started to pile up on that organization. And here we are. He's playing now under a new name, the Washington football team, but same Alex Smith. You wouldn't even know he had leg surgery unless you had seen the graphic images or heard the stories about it. But Alex Smith playing very well, balling out for Washington. While we're talking about the NFC East, Cowboys laid an egg on Thanksgiving, as you mentioned. Philadelphia, the score last night did not indicate how far apart those two teams were. Seattle should have won by like at least 20. And then the Giants, they just lost Daniel Jones. So with all that being said, Luke, I'm going to ask you this. Giants versus Cowboys, who you got?
Giants, Cowboys. Honestly, I'll take the Cowboys just off of talent alone. their roster is good enough that it should be able to beat the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
But the quarterback issue is just so dramatic with the Cowboys. It's like you can't tell what you're gonna get. Andy Dalton had a few good passes, like the one to Amari Cooper to start, and then he also just got eaten up by that Washington football team defense in the second half. So it's the talent. I'll take the Cowboys, but I just don't like the G-men right now.
Gotcha. And Jacob, briefly for you, Giants or Cowboys? Who you got?
I don't know. Man, I want to say because I like Daniel Jones, but obviously he's hurt, so I might want to say Cowboys. But it's so tight.
Okay, Sam, for you, Giants or Cowboys? Who you got in that?
The Giants, I feel like, are the better coached team. So with both quarterbacks being out, I got to go with the Giants on this one. Yeah, like everyone keeps talking about the Cowboys. Oh, they're gonna win, but they keep losing games. So we're
being blinded by their brand. So I like it. Take the Giants there. Maynard, what about you? Giants or Cowboys?
Well, if you want to talk about one of my favorite movies, The Little Giants, you got to go with the Giants over the Cowboys in this one. They pulled off the annexation of Puerto Rico. Man, I think you got to take the cake on that one.
They might need to get Icebox out there to finish off the season if they keep having injuries and struggles like they have been. But Danny O'Shea is somewhere behind MetLife Stadium or Meadowlands Stadium waiting to get in there to coach. I'm the tiebreaker here. I'm also going to go with the Giants just because they have not let us down this season. They've been what we've expected of them, whereas the Cowboys have too much talent to perform the way they have. Let's go Washington football team, Philadelphia Eagles. Can I get a consensus thumbs up if everyone's going Washington here? Washington. Okay, we're all going Washington. Okay, I thought so. So we'll go Washington. All right, guys, and then we got Giants versus Washington for the division. Who do you guys think is going to win this division, Giants or Washington? Luke, let's go with you.
I'm riding with the Washington football team. Their next two games are kind of tough, but then after that, I mean, the way they've been playing as of late, I'll take Washington to close it out.
Jacob, you as well, Washington over Giants?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they got the better quarterback. They got Alex Smith, and that defense, kind of scary. The D-line is a lot better than people expect. I mean, it's up to par with expectations.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Maynard, you taking Washington as well, or –
Yeah, I'll go Washington. I mean, it's 2020. How about a winless football team winning the division? First of everything.
I like it. They don't have a name. They're just a football team. And this is the type of team that I think if they make it to the tournament with Alex Smith, an experienced quarterback, Antonio Gibson is playing as one of the top 10 running backs in the league right now. Terry McLaurin is a top 15 wide receiver in the league right now. Logan Thomas at tight end is nothing to laugh at. And like Sam mentioned, the defense has been showing up as they've been expected to every week. I think the Washington football team is a sleeper team, not a Super Bowl team, but a sleeper team to make some noise in the playoffs, depending on who they match up against. But I do like Washington. But anyways, I like talking about the NFC East when we can because it's just such a bad conference. Sam, did you have a intrigue matchup, or you want to give us some info on Jags Vikings for us?
Well, I think the division matchup between the Texans and the Colts is pretty interesting. It's the first of two games. Obviously, they're going to play this season, and they're playing two of them pretty much back-to-back. So it's got some playoff implications to it. I mean, whichever team wins kind of has the leg up on the other one as far as being the number two in the division, with the Titans leading. Obviously, Jags.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting to see Houston kind of creeping up from the grave. We'll see if they can make enough noise here in the last few weeks to get into that seventh wild card spot.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Oh, they've won. I mean, they've won 3 of the last 4 games without, Bob. So.
And they just did lose Will Fuller. I know they lost a defensive back as well due to PED. No irony there. Brian Cushing is their strength and conditioning coach. So kind of funny there. And then let's go to Jacob to close out the intrigue matchups. Jacob, go for it, man.
So my intrigue matchup is going to be the Cleveland Browns at the Tennessee Titans. And the reason I really like this matchup is because of the running backs. And I was actually pulling up the last 3 games of each running back, Nick Chubb, obviously, and Derrick Henry. And they both have 3 straight 100-yard games. Now, here's the difference between those three straight. Nick Chubb has 2 of those against Houston and Jacksonville. Those are 2 bottom 5 rushing defenses. Here's the crazy part. Derrick Henry, it was Indianapolis, Baltimore, and then Indianapolis again. And those are 2 top 10 rushing defenses, and he's just powering up for the playoffs. This man is potentially the best running back in the league, and he always does this. He always just goes crazy towards the end of the year. He just gets better and better. And I honestly think the Titans are contenders and the Browns are pretenders. They're not going to catch up to the Steelers, but the Titans are trying to maintain their division lead over the Colts, and I think they're just going to unleash Derrick Henry for potentially a 200-yard game.
I like it, and I like the 200-yard game. That's a very bold prediction there, but not so much. It is playoff Henry time, so 200 yards from him does seem doable. And like you said, running through Indianapolis twice in the last 3 weeks, as well as the Baltimore Ravens, 2 of the best defenses in the league. For myself, I'm going to go Rams at Cardinals, more so because of how similar their 2 games were this past week. Rams and the Cardinals both lost on a last-second field goal. The Rams losing to the 49ers, the Cardinals losing to the Patriots. Both last-second field goals there to lose their games. And the Cardinals, I mean, don't look at the schedule because they've lost 3 of their last 4, and the only game they won in that stretch was because of a DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary catch against the Bills. They would be on a 4-game losing streak if it wasn't for that Hail Mary, and that team could be in trouble. Both those teams, mind you, are looking up at the Seattle Seahawks, and because the 49ers beat the Rams on Sunday, both those teams have the 49ers 1 game behind them at 5-6. So this division right now is 8-3 Seattle, 7-4 Rams, 6-5 Arizona, 5-6 49ers, and with 7 playoff spots in the NFC and AFC each, I could see 3 teams making it out of this division. If not 4, if San Francisco strings off some wins here. I'm not thinking too clearly as far as the other divisions go, but I know the NFC West has the Chiefs, and the South is going to be the Saints, and the East is going to be the Bills. So maybe the Dolphins will get one of those wild card spots. But I'm looking at this division right now, and this game is huge between these 2 teams on Sunday. And now for a less enticing matchup, unless you have Dalvin Cook on your fantasy team, Jacksonville at Minnesota. Just like I've said in the past, just go to sleep. Just maybe get a little afternoon siesta. There's just not much to look forward to here. Cuddle up, maybe get a glass of bourbon next to you. I think Dalvin Cook is going to have one of his best games of the season, even though he is coming off an injury. However, I say all that to say my instincts have been wrong in the past, i.e. the Chargers game, i.e. the Browns game. And I think if history serves correctly, I think the Jaguars might keep this one close simply because I'm saying it will be a blowout. But Jaguars at Vikings, any storylines from you guys in that game? Any excitement at all? Anything exciting to see in Jags Vikings? Anyone feel free to jump in.
I do kind of want to bring up that the Minnesota Vikings, they started the season 1-5, and right now they're 5-6. So they've been 4-1 in their last 5 games. But while you're worried about Dalvin Cook, and for the right reasons, who I'm worried about, and I say worried because I have Justin Jefferson on my fantasy team, I think this man's going to go off. We still don't know if Adam Thielen's coming back. He probably will from his COVID protocol that he's dealing with. But we don't really have any corners, and Justin Jefferson has been the best rookie receiver. He might just blow the top off the defense a few times this game.
I mean, it is crazy to think we're playing with practice squad players. Like Andrew Wingard is our starting safety, and the best picture to come out of the game this past Sunday was one of our defensive backs grasping Jarvis Landry's butt on the sideline. Picture snapped at the perfect time. I mean, that just sums up our season right there. Let's get into some fantasy football talk, and it is exciting. It's an exciting day here with the podcast as we have partnered with Thrive Daily Fantasy, thrivefantasy.com. Go check out Thrive Fantasy if you are looking to rejuvenate your daily fantasy experience. I'm telling you, I used it last night, Monday Night Football, and the way it works is 20 selections are available, and you pick 10 of them. And it's the over-under for only the most marquee athletes on that slate for that Sunday. Could it be Dalvin Cook has more than 1.5 touchdowns? Could it be Russell Wilson has less than 900 or 290 receiving yards? It's going to be crazy stuff. Antonio Gibson over a half a touchdown, pass completions. It's really fun. Go look at Instagram. Go look at Twitter. I'm going to post more about Thrive Fantasy. Be sure to go and sign up today. Use code Poojie, P-O-O-J-I, if you're going to go sign up. Thrive has agreed to match every deposit up to $50 with a minimum $20 deposit. So prop up daily fantasy this week with Thrive Fantasy, code Poojie. So with that being said, I mean, Luke, do you have any fantasy players that are going to thrive this week?
I like to thrive Derrick Henry. You saw what James Robinson did against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they even knew that Jacksonville was going to run it. It's not like we had DJ Chark out, we had another receiver out, and we had basically kind of like our practice squad receivers coming in and some backups coming in. And so they knew that he was going to run it, and he still ran it into the end zone and ran all over him. So imagine that times 2 with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's going to have a monster day against Cleveland.
Yeah, I could easily see that. I know Jacob touched on it, 200 yards potentially. Matt, anyone for you that's going to thrive this week, or maybe any sleepers or busts?
Yeah, so my boom, just going with the Jags and the Vikings. You guys mentioned Dalvin Cook. I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins this week. He's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback in the last 2 weeks, averaging almost 20 points. And he and Justin Jefferson right now have had that consistency going. They're finding that chemistry, so he's playing well. And they could potentially be getting Adam Thielen back. I don't know what the status is with him right now going into this week. And then the Jags defense right now, they're just boasting the 3rd highest average points to quarterbacks at almost 22 points, which they've been consistent right now on a week-to-week basis. And a sleeper, I'm going to piggyback on Sam's intrigue matchup, and I'm going to go with Trey Burton, the Colts tight end. He's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games, 4 total on the season. He's been a red zone favorite right now for Phillip Rivers. And then they're going to face a very lethargic Texans defense, which ranks 21st in tight ends this season.
I like it. Anytime we get stats, the better. So I like that. Good calls there, Trey Burton. I saw him catch a touchdown this past week. So would be a great sleeper there, actually. Let's go over to Jacob. Jacob, any thriving players from you this week, or any fantasy busts or sleepers?
You already kind of heard part of my boom with Justin Jefferson. Another guy, James Robinson. The Vikings are a bottom 10 defense in terms of running. A crazy stat I just now saw. It's really ridiculous. I told you guys he's 159 yards away from breaking Dominique Rhodes' scrimmage yards record. And that's exactly how many yards from scrimmage he had in this last game. So if he just has a repeat performance, he's going to kill it in fantasy, and he's going to set a new record breaking Dominique Rhodes' record.
I like it. I mean, hey, if you sign up on Thrive, you'll be able to pick James Robinson, receiving yards, rushing yards, combined touchdowns. You definitely got to get on Thrive there and pick some James Robinson props. Sam, what about you? You got any fantasy advice this week for us? Any booms, busts, or sleepers?
I, too, am a large fan of James Robinson. He has done wonders for me this season. But I got to say that my boom this week is a Nyheim Hines play against the Houston Texans. And I just think that, I mean, they're going to be passing out of the backfield. Nyheim Hines has been proven to be a great receiver to Phillip Rivers. So it's just going to be a dump-offs all day, beating up that defense and getting yards for him. As far as a sleeper pick for you guys, I think a good waiver wire pickup is obviously Kiki QT out of for the Texans. I think it's obvious that Deshaun Watson's going to ball to somebody, and it's going to be the next guy up who's been actually getting a lot of deep passes from him on the outside.
And Kiki's a guy that a lot of people remember his name from last season. Actually played pretty well for the Texans. Took a step back this season. Randall Cobb has been playing more frequently, getting more yards as well, more receptions. But Kiki QT, that's a good call from you, Sam. I guess you must have the waiver priority in front of me in our fantasy league, so you might be going to scoop him up. So we'll see what you do there. But in the Nyheim Hines pick too, we saw Phillip Rivers thrive in, and I'm saying thrive again just because of how great it is. But no, we saw him thrive in San Diego when he was with the Chargers, with Darren Sproles, and then obviously Austin Eckler, and now he's got the same kind of scat back in Indianapolis, which is seeming to be the way the NFL is going with these, pass-catching backs out of the backfield. For me, I'm going to go with my player to thrive as Chris Carson versus the Giants. I say that he is in a running back by committee, which I don't like. However, I think from what I watched last night, he ran really hard against an Eagles front seven that has been known to stuff some runners this season. Obviously, they're not the best team offensively, but their defense is nothing to laugh at. Chris Carson versus the Giants, I think he's going to be back to full strength. My bust for the week is going to be Stephon Diggs versus the 49ers. I really like what the 49ers did against the Rams. They held Robert Woods in check. They held Cooper Kupp in check. And the Rams offense, which is known to be one of the better in the league, was held to only 20 points. So I'm going to go Stephon Diggs versus the 49ers as my bust. In my sleeper, sticking with wide receivers, is going to be Devontae Parker versus the Bengals. I think the whole Dolphins team, first of all, has been slept on this whole season. Just not a lot of credit. As soon as Tua went out, everyone wanted to stop talking about them. But Devontae Parker for against the Bengals for the Dolphins is going to be my sleeper for Week 13. So we'll get those onto paper. Anything else from you guys? Any predictions? Let's go through Jags predictions. Maynard, Jags versus Vikings prediction, as well as your Saints-Falcons prediction.
Yeah. So I say the Vikings said they're going to blow out the Jags, I think. I'm going to go 41-15. And then Saints-Falcons, like I said, this all depends on if the Falcons can make those adjustments. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I'm going to give the Saints this one. They take the spread. I'm going to go 24-20.
Oh, I like it. That's a good one. And that might be one on the three-piece combo meal that we're doing on Sunday, the straight-up pick, over-under, as well as turnovers. That's a good one. Jacob, let's go to you. Your prediction for Jags, Vikings, as well as Cleveland, Tennessee.
I didn't think that our game last week against the Browns was going to be as close as it was. And so I'm not going to make that same mistake twice because, like I said, the Vikings are a bottom 10 defense. So I actually do think we'll be able to score, but I still think the Vikings will come out with a win, 24-17. And then with the Titans against the Browns, I said both of those running backs are going off, but I think Derrick Henry is the real one that's going to control this game, and I think they will handle them pretty well. And I say that's like a 31-17 win for the Titans.
I like it. Luke, what about you? Jags, Vikings, as well as football team at Pittsburgh.
For the Jags Vikings, I think the Vikings have a lot of offensive weapons. They're going to take control of the Jaguars. It's going to be 30-21. They just have too much over there. And then as for the Washington football team and the Steelers have scored more than 20 points in every game this year. The Washington football team's not defense. That's no joke. So I think the Washington football team will lose just because the Steelers are a better team. But it's going to be 17 Washington, 24 Steelers. And then if I had to go back and pick a be cautious receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. We've seen that Jalen Ramsey, DeAndre Hopkins in the AFC South as Jaguars fans, and those two go after each other. So be careful of his yardage and touchdowns this coming week.
And that'll be a nice little sub intrigue in my intrigue matchup, DeAndre Hopkins versus Jalen Ramsey. We've seen Jalen Ramsey do his thing this season. Deebo Samuel for the 49ers, though, he did tear it up on Sunday against the Rams, so that was kind of impressive. Just behind DK Metcalf's performance against the Eagles, he balled out too, but who's surprised about that? No one. DJ Leggett, let's go to you. Jags Vikings prediction and Indianapolis at Houston. What do you got?
Indianapolis versus Houston. I think it's going to be a really close game. I got 24-26. I'm going to go with Indianapolis on this one. Just having a better overall team. They're very well-rounded. Probably the most well-rounded team that I can think of in the NFL right now as far as their defense, their quarterback play, their offense, their wide receivers, basically every position. But as far as the Jags, I definitely think we're losing. You can write that one down. We got 17-34 Vikings.
34-17 Vikings. Okay. So I got Rams at Cardinals, and I think this one is going to come down to a field goal, and I think the Rams are going to win this game at the last second. I'm going to say 24-21, and I do think the Vikings are going to bring back that trend of Jaguars letting up 30 or more points, and I think it's going to be 31-16. I think the Jaguars get a touchdown from James Robinson and a few field goals as well. So 31-16 there. Anything else from you guys before we go for the evening? Jacob, what was that interesting thing you brought up to me before the game briefly about Buffalo and San Francisco and what's going on with the 49ers?
Yeah, so before switching to my Tennessee and Cleveland Browns matchup, I was actually considering what was that matchup again? You just said the Bills at 49ers, because that's actually being played in Arizona, even though that's a 49ers home game, because I don't know the specifics. You actually might know better than I, but I know that they're not able to play in their own city right now, and so they had to find somewhere else to play, and that's kind of crazy, but the NFL is rolling. The colors match up for the stadium, so that's good. So it's actually Bills at 49ers at Arizona.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Santa Clara brought down a mandate in the city for no contact sports for the next 3 weeks minimum. So the 49ers have to play in Arizona. They're going to be taking charter planes, jumping just a few hundred miles between the two cities to practice and play this week. So it's going to be interesting. The whole schedule's messed up. Steelers-Ravens is Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon, so enjoy an afternoon cup of coffee and football. Then next week we have 2 Monday night games, Washington at Pittsburgh, Buffalo at San Francisco, and then the Tuesday night game next week is Dallas at Baltimore. That's already got moved to Tuesday night. So the NFL is just filling up the time slots with football games, which is good for us. I mean, I don't care what night of the week it is. I'll watch football any night of the week. So it's going to be crazy to see if they can get through the rest of the season and into the playoffs unscathed. But that's all we have for tonight's episode 59, Week 13 NFL preview. As I said earlier, go check out Thrive Fantasy Prop Up with Thrive Fantasy. Use code Poojie to get your first deposit matched up to $50. Also, go follow us on Twitter now, the Poojie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram and YouTube. Hit subscribe, as well as any of your podcast streaming platforms so you can listen to us on the go. Thank you again, panel, for being here. And until next time, go make this world a better place. Take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?